Government expert says COVID cases could rise as a result of new variants. Exchequer member suggests property tax may be relaxed for non-residents. And Japanese hotel as an investment by Hong Kong buyers. Good evening and welcome to TVB News. Government Pandemic Advisor Professor David Ho says the city's COVID caseload will see a surge if some of the new variants become the dominant strain. Meanwhile, Hong Kong reported 5,424 new COVID infections today, about 300 more than yesterday. Among the 312 imported cases today, some 20 cases carry the BQ.1.1 and XBB subvariants. 7 more patients succumbed to the coronavirus. Christy Khan reports.
After the implementation of 0+3 policy, meaning that the city's hotel quarantine measure was axed and replaced with a 3-day health monitoring, Hong Kong has experienced a slightly rising number of imported coronavirus infections as more people flew into the city. New Omicron variants such as BQ.1.1 and BA.4.6 were found among the imported cases. Government's pandemic advisor David Ho told reporters this morning that he expects the city's daily COVID infection tally will go up as a result of the emergence of new variants. But he said that Hong Kong people don't have to worry about the situation, as the city has already reached a fairly high vaccination rate to protect people against the new strains.
The reproduction number is now 1.25, so we can foresee that there will be an increase in the number of confirmed cases. If you look at the statistics, the number of severe cases and the number of fatal cases is actually not that high and quite similar to Singapore. So I think as long as we continue to increase the vaccination rates, especially among the high-risk populations, I don't think we need to worry too much.
He added that the government's PCR tests for all inbound travelers should remain in place for this reason.
For the time being, because the government is concerned about new variants coming to Hong Kong, so the PCR still play a role. If you don't have a PCR, you cannot perform genome sequencing, and you cannot monitor new variants entering Hong Kong.
He suggested that those follow-up PCR tests could be eventually replaced by daily rapid antigen tests in future. Asked if the recent returnees will be able to enter regulated premises, such as restaurants, soon, Hui said the government is still monitoring the COVID situation, adding that they will consider allowing travelers to enter those venues by presenting a negative RAT result. Additionally, Hui said there will be room for further easing the city's COVID curbs if the number of serious and death cases drops continuously. But there's still no time frame for switching to a 0+0 model. Christy Khan, TVB News.
Convener of the city's Executive Council, Regina Ip, said Chief Executive John Lee may include the easing of property taxes for non-permanent residents in his upcoming policy address, set to be announced on Wednesday. Ip said the measures would help attract talent from overseas.
Hong Kong's buyer's stamp duty for properties was introduced 10 years ago. Property buyers who are not permanent residents of Hong Kong would need to pay 15% tax on the value of the property and an additional 15% buyer's stamp duty. Earlier, Bloomberg quoted an informed source as saying the government was considering relaxing such rules in the upcoming policy address. The source also noted part of all of the stamp duty imposed can likely be refunded if a non-permanent resident stays in Hong Kong for some time. Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury Christopher Ho said authorities would continue to observe property market trends. He said home prices are affected by many factors, including U.S. rate hikes. New People's Party's chairwoman Regina Ip said she had suggested to the CE the matter of easing buyer stamp duty. She thinks that non-permanent residents who stay in Hong Kong for 3 years should be granted exemption from buyer stamp duty. The Executive Council convener believes the details will be announced in John Lee's upcoming policy address. Ip added the relaxation will help Hong Kong attract talent. Meanwhile, Henderson Land Development's Executive Director Augustine Wong agrees, adding relaxing the so-called harsh measures, it's something developers had always sought. He added although the measures were imposed to curb speculative activities in the markets, objective circumstances have changed so that certain adjustments can be made.
Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury Christopher Ho said he expected about 20,000 participants to attend the city's upcoming FinTech Week. He added that the Hong Kong SAR was not afraid of competition, with Singapore holding its FinTech Festival in early November. Hong Kong's FinTech Week will kick off at the Convention and Exhibition Centre in Wan Chai on October 31st. The Financial Services Chief said Hong Kong has its own strength and attraction, so the SAR is not afraid of growing competition with Singapore. Asked if participants of the FinTech Week will be exempted from some anti-COVID rules, Ho said the current 0+3 arrangement had already brought convenience for overseas attendees. The Airport Authority Hong Kong kick-started its 5th job fair of the year in Tsuen Wan today. This time, the 2-day fair offers some 1,200 jobs from 18 companies. Some recent university graduates and former aviation staff members flocked to the venue to submit their applications. In the job fair, around 70% of the recruitments are related to the aviation industry. The rest are in engineering-related fields. Some recruiters believe that the aviation industry is still attractive to Hong Kongers, especially after the relaxation of travel restrictions in Hong Kong. The observatory says the tropical cyclone near the Luzon Strait will reach southern China tomorrow afternoon, but its direct threat to Hong Kong is not high. Still, the forecaster warned that temperatures will fall next week. Tropical cyclone Nesat will keep a distance of more than 400 kilometers from Hong Kong tomorrow afternoon. The observatory said the city is expected to mainly come under the influence of the northeast monsoon. It will be windy early to midweek next week. The weather will be cooler from Tuesday to Thursday, with temperatures falling to around 19 degrees. As the Japanese yen remains weak, some Hong Kongers are seizing the opportunity to buy hostels in Japan and turn them into hotels. Still, the strict vetting process in the country might be slowing down their dreams. Trevor Lee takes a look at one of these ventures.
Old stuff out. New ideas in. This 2-story hostel at the foot of Mount Fuji was sold to a Hong Kong buyer early this month for about 4 million Hong Kong dollars. The buyer then teamed up with a designer friend Kelvin to flip the hostel, which hopefully can turn into a brand new onsen or hot spring hotel and receive guests this coming spring. Kelvin said for the price of an ordinary flat in Hong Kong, you get a hotel in Japan. So there must be some investment value there. He said he doesn't think Japan's tourism industry can return to its peak soon, but he's prepared to be patient. According to the country's law, tourist accommodation facilities are mainly classified as homestay lodgings, hostels and hotels. By law, the requirement for designs must straightly adhere to various classifications. For example, this hotel, which was upgraded from a hostel, must meet certain standards for fire service systems, smoke detectors and lobby space. All must be approved by the Japanese authorities with lots of administrative procedures. Kelvin said it takes Hong Kong people's flexibility while respecting detail-oriented Japanese culture to get through the red tape. He noted he had to go through 50 to 60 meetings during the entire process. Seasonal changes are so distinct in Japan. Many rush in to capture the beauty of cherry blossoms or the winter snow. Some 2 million travelers visited Japan each month on average before the pandemic. Hotel businesses here think the occupancy rate won't be much affected, even if it's low season. Trevor Lee, TVB News, Tokyo, Japan.
Welcome back to TVB News. The 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China will open at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing tomorrow. At a press briefing this afternoon, Sun-Ye Li, spokesperson for the Congress, said all preparations are ready. Sun said that China will continue to implement the dynamic zero policy to fight the COVID pandemic. About 2,300 representatives are expected to attend the event, which is held every 5 years. One of the main missions of the Congress will be to make suitable changes to the party constitution. The event will run for 7 days until next Saturday. Overseas, at least 40 people have died in an explosion at a coal mine in northern Turkey. The tragedy happened in the town of Amasra in the Black Sea province of Bartın. There were around 110 miners in the shaft when it exploded. Preliminary reports say it was likely caused by flammable gases that often build up in coal mines. 11 people were injured while 58 others managed to get out of the mine on their own or were rescued. Turkey's worst mine disaster was in 2014 when 301 people died in a fire inside a coal mine in the western town of Soma. In Britain, embattled Prime Minister Liz Truss has appointed former Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt as Chancellor of the Exchequer after sacking Kwasi Kwarteng. At a hastily arranged news conference, Truss said she was acting to reassure the markets after unfunded tax cuts crushed UK asset value and drew international criticism. Meanwhile, Hunt is already getting down to business. Tracy Furness has more.
Former Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng left Downing Street on Friday after Prime Minister Liz Truss fired him after only 37 days on the job. Kwarteng said he resigned on Truss's request after rushing back from an IMF meeting in Washington. Truss promptly announced the appointment of former Foreign and Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt to replace Kwarteng.
Today, I have asked Jeremy Hunt to become the new Chancellor. He's one of the most experienced and widely respected government ministers and parliamentarians, and he shares my convictions and ambitions for our country.
Hunt said on Saturday that some taxes would go up and government spending would rise by less than previously planned, as he warned of difficult decisions ahead to restore Britain's economic policy credibility.
It was a mistake to cut the top rate of tax at a period when we were asking everyone to make sacrifices. And it was a mistake to fly blind and not to back up the economic plans that were announced with an independent forecast from the Office for Budget Responsibility. What people want more than anything else is stability, and that means political stability.
People in London had mixed reactions to the Chancellor's sacking and reversing course of a major part of Truss's tax-cutting plan.
So the fact that she has had turmoil in her cabinet and she's firing people that have just been hired isn't great. To be fair, I really would like to see a change of government pretty soon.
A lot of people like her, a lot of people dislike her. Personally, I'm on middle ground, so I'm not 100%. But with the way Boris left things, it's a tough situation to get out of. So just finding the right budget, getting things going again, it's going to be tough for her.
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
There was yet another fatal shooting incident in the U.S. A 15-year-old boy fatally shot 2 people in a neighborhood in North Carolina's capital city of Raleigh. The teen then fled toward a walking trail where he killed 3 more people and wounded 2 others.
5 individuals lost their lives, including an off-duty Raleigh Police Department officer. 2 others were injured, including a Raleigh police officer who has been treated and released from the hospital.
The suspect eluded the police for hours before he was cornered in a home and arrested. The victims who died were a racially diverse group and ranged in age from 16 to late 50s. That's the news. Thanks for joining us.